The following video is my opinion. If you don't like it, make your own video. Hello, and welcome to the first ever JoshAgeddon video game review. I know, right? It's about freaking time I got done with this video. I've been teasing it forever, and everyone's been like, oh, he says he's gonna do a video game review, but I don't see it. I've been waiting, I don't see it. Well, you're getting it now. Are you happy? You should be. But yes, this is my very first video game review, and I want it to be special. Now, what better video game to review first than this putrid piece of garbage? Yeah, let's just zoom in on this. It's so beautiful. How can anyone ever hate this? Oh, and as you can tell from the side, I've had so much fun with this game. Fun so much I have had. I can't wait! As you could probably guess, I'm not overly fond of this game. As a matter of fact, I absolutely hate it. It's one of the worst video games I've ever played in my life, although it is an improvement over its predecessor, WWE 13. But let's face it, that's pretty much the equivalent of beating Samson in a scavenger hunt after he had his eyeballs gouged out of his face. However, I am aware that I am in the minority here. I mean, every time I look up a review for this game online, it's generally positive. I mean, most people do like this game, and that's fine. I mean, IGN gave it an 8.7 out of 10, and again, that's fine. We're humans, we're not going to agree on everything. I'm not going to get angry every time someone disagrees with me. Seriously, you've got to be pretty immature to get mad every time someone disagrees with you. This is awkward. With that said, this game does have some really good parts. I would even argue to say that some things in this game are excellent. You just kind of have to put up with a bunch of crap trying to find those good parts. I wouldn't even say this game is 90% terrible. More like 80, 85, but that's still pretty bad, but it's not completely terrible. Kind of, but we'll get into it. But before I really get into this game, I'm going to go back a little bit and give you a brief little history lesson, I guess you could say, just to give you a bigger picture of this game. Now, as I'm sure you're aware, there are a ton, and I mean ton, of WWE video games. It's pretty much its own genre now. There are several classics like WWF No Mercy for the Nintendo 64, and SmackDown Here Comes the Pain for the PlayStation 2. Then there are the wackier ones like WWE All-Stars. Just complete absurdity. And let's not forget what was really the standard bearer, at least in my opinion, of these games, the SmackDown vs. Raw series. Now we're talking. These games were awesome. Starting in 2004 with the very first SmackDown vs. Raw. My personal favorite, of course, is SmackDown vs. Raw 2010. 2010 was really what got me into pro wrestling. It's also the very last truly great wrestling game. SmackDown vs. Raw 2011 was okay, just not great. But in 2011, the decision was made to rename the series, or at least just shorten it to WWE insert year here. That may have been caused by the end of the first brand split due to the Raw Super Show. Yeah, you remember that. But whatever. So how was WWE going to follow up the illustrious SmackDown vs. Raw series? With WWE 12, of course. And boy, was it terrible. Why, you may ask? Mainly, one thing. Glitches. Like a truckload. 3 truckloads of glitches. And glitches were not WWE 12's only problem. It was their main problem, But when you count the awful, and I mean awful AI, the weird, sluggish, and finicky controls that were sometimes unreliable, and then you cap it off with a very lackluster Road to WrestleMania storyline, I mean, if you're gonna go with the image of Sheamus holding every single title in the company, Sheamus, of all people, really? And then you have Triple H breaking Ric Flair's record, becoming 17-time world champion in a bizarre fatal 4-way elimination last man standing match. Just absolutely bizarre. But again, not everyone agrees with me. I mean, I have friends who like this game. Don't exactly know what you're smoking, but still, there are some people who do like 12. But there are also a lot of people like me who don't like the game. I mean, it's terrible. There are a lot of serious problems that make it hard to enjoy the game. But would the company that made this game, THQ, fix those problems in the next game? No. They would actually, I still don't know how, make it worse. This happened. That abomination I just put in front of your faces. That just... WWE 13. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Now, it is baffling that the same company that gave us the great SmackDown vs. Raw series also crapped out these two monstrosities, but there is a reason for it. At least I think the reason. Around this time, THQ was having serious financial difficulties, and they even closed their doors in 2013. Now, it is amazing that they actually got WWE 12 and 13 done before they had to close their doors. But still, can you imagine trying to make a video game when your company's falling apart? It must have been chaos. But just before THQ went under, they did try to at least start making 14. I'm not entirely sure how far they got, or how much progress they made making the game, but when they went under, they signed over the rights to 2K, and 2K was like, oh, we're gonna save this sinking ship. We're gonna make these games good, we're gonna do our best, everything's gonna be good. I would have paid money. I would pay money to go back in time and see the looks on their faces when they first dug into this game. What THQ literally died making. But 2K pulled through, and WWE 2K14 hit the shelves in 2013. Now, for all of 2K14's shortcomings and flaws, I am going to cut it a little bit of slack, especially for 2K, because two main reasons. One, this was 2K's very first wrestling game outing, and number two, they were pretty much playing hot potato with a dying THQ, so it's not really all their fault. Now, everything that's wrong with that piece of crap, WWE 2K15, is completely on them. Yes, WWE 2K14 is very flawed, but it's not without its highlights. And what this game does good, it does very, very well. And that's what I'm going to be going over first, because there are some really good things in the game. And there are a lot of improvements over its predecessors, WWE 12 and 13. And that's what I'm going to be touching on first, is the improvements over the previous games, because there are several. The first improvement I'm going over is relatively minor, and many of you might not even notice or care, but it's something that I really appreciate. The menu music options. In WWE 13, you couldn't change tracks if you didn't like the song, and you couldn't skip over tracks either. Often tracks would repeat, and it would get very old and annoying. I still hear the sounds of that god-awful, just annoying Revolution theme song. It was like, oh, it's Revolution! Over and over and over, and I wanted to rip my ears off. But in WWE 2K14, they fixed this. 2K14 has its very own jukebox in the options section where you can choose what you want to listen to, but you could also take out songs that you don't like. It's a very much needed improvement, and I really like it. Even though my personal preference is peace and quiet. Well, that's the way I'm wired, I'm sorry. Another minor improvement has to do with Creation Suite. Now in WWE 13, there's nothing really wrong with its Creation Suite, except for its pitiful excuse for Create a Championship. All you do in it is just pick a title and change the color. That's literally it. Meanwhile, in WWE 2K14, you can actually create your title from scratch or change color. It's just why they thought it was a good idea to just have a title where you can just change color. I mean, they've had it in previous games. They had it in 2008, I think. But it's been in there before. I don't understand what the problem was, but they fixed it in 2K14. I'm also a fan of how you can edit what a superstar wears in the Superstar Threads section, or how you can just completely just create your own superstar with a template of a real-life superstar, where you can just go crazy with whatever you want to put on it. So WWE 2K14's additions to the Creation Suite give you a lot more to work with than in WWE 13 and 12, which is a really good thing. Not saying 12 and 13's Creation Suites were bad, per se, but it's always good to have more tools to work with, so you can make things your own, you know what I'm saying? But that doesn't mean that 2K14's Creation Suite is flawless. It's far from that. More on that later. Now, enough about the Creation Suite in 2K14, as those are more minor improvements, like I said earlier, little hints and nuggets here and there that I really appreciate, but there are two major improvements that I want to discuss. And those two improvements really make this game tolerable, I guess, because without these two, it would be just like 13, which is an unmitigated disaster, but that makes this game better. Still bad, but better. The first of these major improvements has to do with in-game glitches. As mentioned earlier, WWE 12 is extremely glitchy and nearly impossible to play without running into serious bugs. It's very reminiscent to the infamous Sonic 06 in that regard, which is a very bad thing. The sheer amount of glitches in 12 completely ruins the experience and sucks the fun out of the game. WWE 13 also has an abundance of glitches, but not as many as 12, I guess. But still, that is way too many. 2K14, on the other hand, is significantly less glitchy than 12 and 13. It still has glitches here and there, but nowhere near as many as the previous games. Even though glitches are comedic gold, they are not good. It's a sign of a poorly programmed game, which again, that's bad. 2K14 greatly benefits from the lack of these frequent glitches, and that in turn automatically makes it better than both WWE 12 and 13. The other major improvement I'm going to be going over has to do with the game's pinning mechanic. In WWE 13, one of the game's most glaring issues has to do with its pinning mechanic. It's so glitchy, so broken, and so unfinished that it's absolutely rage-inducing and single-handedly ruined the game for me. The main reason why I hate 13 is its pinning mechanic, because it's so awful. And for those of you that want to know why, have you ever heard of the infamous one-count glitch? For those of you that haven't, in the game, you can do an enormous amount of damage to your opponent, and when you pin them, they'll kick out at 1. Or you'll just get the 3. There is absolutely 0 2 counts, and when they do happen, they're extremely rare, but most of the time, you're never going to see a 2 count in the game. And once you do see it, it's just automatically a 3. But most of the time, you'll hit a finisher and then cover them, and it's only a 1 count. And it just makes you want to throw your controller at the TV, because it's so annoying. And that's not even like creative finishers, that's regular moves. And speaking of creative finishers, the creative finishing moves in WWE 13 do basically no damage whatsoever. I don't know how or why this issue is present, but it's just, when you do a creative finishing move, when you pin them after it, you'll be lucky if you even get a 1. Often you'll get a 0 count, which just, again, should never happen in a wrestling game. God forbid you make a creative finishing move that ends with a pin. This is when the game freaks out, because when the person kicks out, they will literally teleport around the ring. Just completely absurd, and it is a sign of a broken, unfinished product. It feels like you're beta testing, and it's just the absolute worst in WWE 13. However, in 2K14, this issue is completely fixed, like 100%, virtually non-existent. 2 counts are aplenty in this game, and there's no teleporting around the ring when you kick out of a creative finishing move. It's completely fixed. Good job, 2K. They heard the complaints about it because a lot of people were upset about it in 13, and they were like, you know what, we're going to fix it. And they did. So good job. So to recap, WWE 2K14 has several improvements, such as the music jukebox, the more variety in the creation suite, less glitches, and of course the fixed pinning mechanic, that all make this game much better than the previous games. It makes it enjoyable. The game still has a lot of problems that I'll be discussing later. However, there are also some standalone things that aren't necessarily improvements that are really good in this game. Such as the one thing in this game that I do believe is this game's biggest highlight, the main selling point of this game, the 30 Years of WrestleMania mode. Unless you add in the problems that I'll be discussing later, 30 Years of WrestleMania is this game's greatest achievement. Now, as you're probably aware, one of the most popular parts of the SmackDown vs. Raw series was the Road to WrestleMania mode that was introduced in SmackDown vs. Raw 2009. And I love this mode because it's pretty much the wrestling game's story mode, and it's really awesome. All the cutscenes where you can just do whatever, and it's just fun. It makes it feel like you're watching an actual wrestling show, but it's in a game. My personal favorite of these was, of course, the one in SmackDown vs. Raw 2010, because I felt it was written so well. And even the one in WWE 12 was alright, even though I already voiced my complaints about it earlier, but it's still fun. Now, when WWE 13 rolled around, they decided to do away with this in favor of an Attitude Era mode, because, of course, that's the most popular period in wrestling. Now, I myself wasn't crazy about the Attitude Era. I never was, and I'm still not, so that's probably why I didn't really care about it that much. However, when 2K took over in 2013, when they were making 2K14, they were like, okay, WrestleMania 30 is coming around soon in 2014, and we need to do something special. So why don't we make a mode where we visit every single WrestleMania ever and just do missions about it? That sounds like fun, and it was a brilliant idea, and it was executed to perfection in this game. And I'm not kidding. Literally every WrestleMania up to WrestleMania 29 is represented in this game with at least one match from that WrestleMania. For example, WrestleMania 3 has both Hogan and Andre and Ricky Steamboat versus Macho Man Randy Savage. WrestleMania 19 has Stone Cold versus The Rock, and Shawn Michaels versus Chris Jericho. WrestleMania 10 has Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels, and it also has Bret Hart and Yokozuna. WrestleMania 20 has Big Show and John Cena and Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg. Wait. WrestleMania 20 has Brock versus Goldberg? They put this in the game? What? Why? Why would you put... Okay, I'll get over it. Nope, I can't get over it. Nope, can't do it. Really? You put Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg in your 30 Years of WrestleMania mode? Are you serious? That match is one of the worst matches in the history of professional wrestling. It was a monstrosity. And you put it in here. I get that you didn't have that much to work with WrestleMania 20, because you can't use Chris Benoit, you can't use Kurt Angle because he was in TNA at that point, but why couldn't you use Chris Jericho versus Christian from WrestleMania 20? That was a good match. No, you had to put that absolute embarrassment of a match on here. I mean, this is supposed to be a celebration. It's bad enough the WrestleMania 9 is on here. It's bad enough the WrestleMania 29 is on here. But no, you have to put one of the worst matches ever on here. You have to put Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg in here. You have to remind us of that. Thank you, 2K14. I'm going to kill you. You deserve to die. Dead. Okay, as dumb as it is that match is in the 30 Years of WrestleMania mode, it doesn't ruin it. I mean, if anything was going to ruin the mode, it would have been including crappy WrestleManias like WrestleMania 9, 29, 11. None of that ruins it, because the mode is so well put together. And it actually functions just like the Attitude Era mode in WWE 13 did, where you have to go through certain scenarios in WWE's past, more specifically more WrestleManias in WWE's past, and go through objectives and missions within matches in order to progress and unlock special stuff. You can't just go in and just win the match if you want to get everything. You have to go beat by beat and relive certain occurrences in order to progress, and it actually can be quite challenging. And it honestly does feel like you're reliving these WrestleMania moments, because not only do they have the in-game cutscenes, they also incorporate actual footage from past WrestleManias to give you an extra feeling of nostalgia from these classic WrestleMania moments, and I really do enjoy that. For example, you get to slam Andre as Hogan from WrestleMania 3. You get to do Orton's double draping DDT on Triple H and John Cena from WrestleMania 24. You get to do John Cena's double attitude adjustment of Big Show and Edge from WrestleMania 25. All this great stuff that just really picks at your nostalgia. I mean, whatever generation you are from, if you're from the classic era, the new generation, attitude era, ruthless aggression, even the PG era, or the reality era as they call it, or the superstar era, you really do get, it feels like you're there. I also like how the WrestleMania moments are executed within the game through QuickTime events and button inputs. However, I do know that most people really don't like these kind of sequences in games, but to be perfectly honest, in my opinion, would you rather just sit there and watch a cutscene unfold, or would you rather be a part of the action and be like, oh, I pressed the incorrect button and I have to do it over again and set it back up? Or, yay, I got it right and I slammed Andre the Giant, or I moved out of the way of the leg drop. I personally think it works in this game very well, and I just like it. That's just me. And even Brock Lesnar versus Goldberg that I groaned about earlier can be kind of fun, because, well, for one, you don't have the entire crowd booing the crap out of you during the match, and it's just a straight-up one-on-one match where all you have to do is win, and it can be a little fun. Oh, this is what this match would look like if it was actually worth watching. So, yeah, they made Goldberg versus Brock look okay. Props for that. And even though I really hate WrestleMania 29, which is the last WrestleMania in the game that it goes over, I do like how it's done in the game, because it kind of acts like a final boss battle, which is absurd for a wrestling game, but when it's The Rock versus John Cena round 2 in the game, it acts like a final boss, because it gets really, really difficult, and at the end of the fight, Rock even gets unlimited finishing moves, which I really think is a nice touch, because it really does feel like a final boss battle, and I just really like it. And outside the core 30 Years of WrestleMania campaign mode, there is a streak mode, where you can either opt to break the streak, or defend the streak. And much like the WrestleMania 29 match between John Cena and The Rock, when you try to break the streak, it's like a final boss fight, because The Undertaker is literally almost impossible to kill. He is literally a zombie in this fight, because you have to hit him with finishing moves over and over and over again, and he gets finishing moves out of nowhere. He even teleports behind you at one point with a finishing move. It's completely insane, pulse pounding, and like you might even have to go in the options and put the game on easy in order to beat him, because I just barely beat him my first time doing it. So it was really, really interesting to see how it went about that. But when you put defend the streak, you're The Undertaker and you're in the Slobber Knocker mode, which is another mode in the game where it's pretty much survival mode, where you have to go through match after match after match after match as The Undertaker and beat as many people as possible. I enjoy the mode, even though it's really just Slobber Knocker mode. It's not really all that special from the Slobber Knocker mode, which is pretty much survival mode. But I still enjoy it. It's just fun to me. 2K14's 30 Years of WrestleMania is easily the best part of the game, because you can just tell the amount of time, thought, and love that went into making it, and it's just turned out really, really well. And there are other great things in the game as well. For example, character models and animations are on point in this game, but that's kind of par for the course for these games. I mean, 13, 12, the SmackDown vs. Raw series never really had any problems with that. Although I will admit that some character models in the game, such as Hulk Hogan's, are absolutely ridiculous. I mean, just look at that. So yeah, graphics and overall presentation are really good. This is a very, very good looking game. No complaints there whatsoever. As for controls and overall gameplay, I do have some complaints that I'll be talking about later, but one thing that I really do like about this game's gameplay and controls is that it's very fast-paced. I mean, things happen like boom, 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 and it's exciting, and you're really into it. Because, not saying that the other games were boring or slow, but they weren't as fast as this game. And the quickening pace of 2K14 is really invigorating and exciting. And that's a very good thing. One of the main things that makes this game feel so fast-paced is how fluid the movements are in the game. Because when you watch a real-life wrestling match, well, good wrestling matches, There's always a fast, fluid pace. In this game, there is a healthy, fluid pace. Moves can be chained together well, and again, it feels like an actual wrestling match, because this game has good, fluid movement. Plus, the controls are very responsive, for the most part. But I'll get more into that later. It is really clear that 2K worked really hard on this game, given the material that they were given. And it shows, because the things that are done well in this game are very clear and obvious, such as the fast, fluid pace, and the responsiveness of the controls. A lot of work went into this game. Unfortunately, there are some problems that bogged this down, but, again, what they did well, they did very well, if that makes any sense. Now I can kind of guess what a lot of you are probably thinking now. Josh, again, at the very beginning of the video, you said that you absolutely hated this game. But for the past 15-20 minutes, you've been doing nothing but saying good things about it. Why is that? That is true. There is a lot to like about 2K14. However, those good things are completely overshadowed and outnumbered by flaw after flaw after flaw after flaw. The reason why I hate this game is because there are good things in it that are ruined. Absolutely ruined. Like 30 Years of WrestleMania. Absolutely ruined by poor design choices, hilariously bad things in the game that just drive me nuts. There is a lot of things wrong with this game. There was like 7 major good things about the game. The improvements to the creation suite, the fixed pinning mechanic, 30 Years WrestleMania, the jukebox, all that good stuff. But I could probably list like 20 different things that is wrong with this game. Starting with... Okay, just gonna go ahead and get this one out of the way. The game commentary is awful. And this has really been a trend since SmackDown vs. Raw 2011, where in that game they would just call out the wrong moves, like Edge would do a spear and they yell, "Oh, the Edge-O-Matic connects!" And it would just get worse and worse and worse with each game. And in 2K14, it's unbearable to listen to because they just spout out random lines during matches, and when someone hits a finishing move, they're cut off by themselves, and you're like, "Oh, the attitude adjustment connects!" So da-da-da. It's absolutely horrible. The game commentary is absolutely atrocious. The only silver lining here is that you can turn them off. And thank God for that, because I would really hate to have to play this game on mute. Although I guess one can argue that it's actually authentic, because when you think about it, actual WWE commentary is awful, so it kind of makes sense that way. Oh, and in case you want proof of how bad this game's commentary is, why don't you take a listen for yourself and tell me what you think?
Sometimes the best offense is a good defense. Seth Rollins just keeps coming at you. Yow! I can't believe this is a no disqualification match. We could see anything in this one. No! Broken up! Wow, that might have broken his jaw. What a reversal! Oh, and he lands that one right to the head.
And he gets out of the way.
Oh, there it is! Just look at the size of this Roman Reigns.
Look past the ring at the thousands and thousands of WWE fans in attendance. Each and every one of them are having a great time tonight.
Ah, look
I actually have a funny story about the in-game commentary with 2K14 because I always have it off because it's terrible. But one time I was recording a match and all of a sudden it magically turned back on for literally no reason. Super creepy. And I had no idea what happened. I mean, I didn't touch anything. I don't know how it turned back on. So I stopped recording. I went to the main menu to the options section where you can turn their volume all up and down. And their volume was still turned all the way down. Creepy is the word I'm looking for here. I think this game is literally starting to drive me insane. Another consistent issue with WWE 2K14 has to do with lengthy loading screens. Now, I brought up Sonic 06 earlier, and one of the main reasons why people hate the game has to do with extremely long and obnoxious loading screens. Now, in Sonic 06, these loading screens will last around 15-20 seconds. Guess how long loading screens can last in 2K14? Go ahead and guess. And I know because I've timed them myself. Loading screens in 2K14 can last anywhere between 30 seconds to 2 minutes. I am not joking. 2 freaking minutes sitting here waiting for the game to start. It's infuriating. When you get two people that you want to fight, or if you have a match set up that you want to do, and you just want to get to the match, you're going to be sitting here for at least 2 minutes waiting for the stupid game to get to the match. And after the entrances are done, you have another freaking loading screen. It's ridiculous. And it's even worse with like created wrestlers and created arenas. Now those are when it gets like longer than 2 minutes. But yeah, the loading screens in this game are just absolutely ridiculous. The next issue I'm going to be going over is actually fairly common with most WWE video games, and 2K14 is no exception here. The AI in the game is absolutely retarded. It's so stupid and hilarious at the same time. I have laughed so hard when this game really gets going. And I know what you're thinking, if most WWE games have bad AI, then is that really a problem since we're used to it? I say, the fact that it's a fairly common problem is a problem. Why can't they fix it? I mean, this is like how many games now where the AI has been bad? Is it that hard to just program the game where it will run efficiently? I would not release a game in this state. I don't see why. I don't know anything about game design. I'm not a game designer. But still, I don't see what the problem is. Just fix it. Probably the biggest problem with the game's AI is that it'll often get stuck on a loop. And what I mean by that is, a computer-controlled character will try to do something, and something about the code won't be just right, so it'll cause the computer-controlled character to do the same thing over and over and over and over again, and they won't stop until you either reverse it, or just straight up just hit them in the face. For example, often in the game, like you'll throw someone to the outside that's controlled by the computer, and if you're too close to them, while they're on the outside, they'll try to grab your feet from the outside of the ring. And if you move out of the way at a certain point, they'll miss. But they will keep trying to do it over and over and over, and they won't stop. You can be on the other side of the ring, and they'll still be trying to grab you from the other side. They won't move around the ring and try to grab you. They'll stay in the same spot and do it over and over and over again, and the only way to stop them is to either go over to them and let them grapple you, or go outside the ring and hit them in the face. It's infuriating. And another instance of this is, sometimes the computer-controlled character will Irish whip someone really hard into the ropes to where they'll be stunned so you can grapple them, and once they get back up, they'll do it again, and again, and they won't stop, and it's annoying, until you eventually reverse the move, or they just get a finishing move and try to pin you or something. It's just stuff like this that just happens all the time. Another really annoying thing that the AI does in this game is, a lot of the time whenever they do a move, and they get a signature available, they'll just stop wrestling, exit the ring, and try to mess with the announce table. Almost every single time that I've played this game, like 9 times out of 10, when they get a signature move stored, they'll run outside the ring to mess with the announce table. And I'm just like, stop doing that! Try to fight me! Hit me with your signature! Do something! Quit going for the table! God! And don't even get me started with how the AI reacts to weapons in this game. Good Lord! Where do I even begin with this? It's like they don't know what to do with weapons. For example, in ladder matches, at every single second, during the entire duration of the ladder match, there has to be at least one ladder in the ring, or the AI will throw a complete fit. I get that the objective of the match is to climb the ladder and rip down whatever, the briefcase or the title, but they will freak out. Like, they'll stop wrestling, go outside the ring, grab a ladder, bring it back in the ring. Even if you throw it out over and over and over again, they won't stop because that's how you win the match. You gotta get the ladder in the ring. I'm like, we get it, but do a move! And then, a lot of the time, when they have a finishing move stored and they counter you and grab the weapon that you're holding, the first thing they'll do is just drop the weapon. I'm sorry, but if I was wrestling someone and I had my finishing move ready and I grabbed their steel chair that I could use to pummel their brains with, I would hit them with the chair. I wouldn't just drop the chair and try to do my finishing move. That's what they do in this game. They drop the weapon and then try to hit their finishing move on you. And I'm like, just hit me with the weapon! Why would you throw it down, you idiot? The game's atrocious AI is just one reason why I would highly suggest that if you really just have to play this game, play it with a friend. Do not play this game by yourself, because you're only going to get angry because of the stupid things that are in this game that are just annoying and they won't stop, like the AI. Play this with a friend. Don't play this alone. Just seriously, take my advice for once, please. Oh, and remember when I said that there were less glitches in this game than the previous two? That is true, but again, there are still a lot of glitches in this game. When I pay $60 for a game, when I pay for a game full price, I expect a tested and finished product. That is not what this game is. I'm not saying that the game has to be completely perfect and flawless. No game is, but when it has this many glitches in the game, that it's just unexcusable. And if glitches, loading screens, awful commentary, and terrible AI wasn't bad enough, the game also has some serious problems with control in the actual gameplay. And I know I praised it earlier for being fast-paced and fluid and for the most part responsive. The game also has some problems with control that take away from, like, although you can enjoy the fast-paced gameplay, there are some problems that take away from it where, like, that's annoying. Why does this game do that? If it wasn't for this, the fast-paced gameplay would be fun. But these things take away from that. The biggest issue I have with 2K14's gameplay is targeting. This game has bad, and I mean bad, targeting issues. And by that I mean, you'll do a move and the opponent won't block, won't dodge, and you'll be in range, but somehow you still miss. And I mean point blank, and you somehow still miss. And there's no way you can possibly miss, but you still do, because this game has terrible, terrible targeting. And I don't know what the deal is, but it's so infuriating to do a move and miss because the game is incompetent. And some of you may accidentally refer to that as bad hit detection. That is not hit detection. If this game had bad hit detection, you would throw a punch and it would hit, but it would go right through your opponent and do no damage. Or if you threw a punch from across the ring and it somehow landed, even though it didn't. You know what I mean? It's like if they were using the Force. But this game, the only time this game has bad hit detection is when it has to do with tables. The tables have bad hit detection. Everything else is fine. It's targeting. Targeting is the gameplay's biggest and most annoying issue. And just look here, me trying to do a frog splash, and when I do it, the opponent doesn't move out of the way, doesn't dodge, doesn't reverse it, and I'm well within range, but I somehow still miss. This is inexcusable. There is no reason as to why I would have missed that, other than the fact that this game sucks. The other problem I have with the game's controls and gameplay has to do with the responsiveness of the controls. Now, if you remember earlier, I said that the game's control responsiveness was good, for the most part, and that I would get into that later. This is that part. For the most part, again, this game has good responsive controls. Except for the gosh darn block button. The block button in this game is so touchy, so janky, and just unresponsive, is the best way you can put it. The block button in this game absolutely sucks, and the block button is one of the most important buttons in a fighting game. Any fighting game, the block button, if it has a block button, is very important. And in a game where you don't have a good block button, but you still need to block, that is bad. Granted, this problem is a lot worse in WWE 13, but it's still bad here and it drives me nuts. If it weren't for these two problems, I would absolutely love 2K14's gameplay. Without question, I would, because can you imagine if this game kept like the fast-paced gameplay, but had a good block button and had good targeting? It would be a fantastic experience. Fun, fast-paced, with no problems that take you out of it. But no, these two problems sink the entire ship for me. They ruin what would otherwise be a great experience. They ruin what would otherwise be a great engine that I would enjoy playing. And that is why I hate 2K14 in a nutshell. It presents what would be a good game, but has stupid, unnecessary, nagging problems that ruin it. That is why I hate this game. Oh yeah, and also the Royal Rumble is terrible in this game too. And if there's anything that even people that like this game will agree that the Royal Rumble in this game is terrible. You know how in past WWE video games, the Royal Rumble was one of the most exciting and fun parts because it's a free-for-all and you get to see everyone come down and make their entrance, and it's like so many people in the ring at the same time. It's chaotic and it's such a fun time. So much for that, because the Royal Rumble in 2K14 absolutely blows for several reasons. Chief among these, or at least the most annoying and the one that people agree on the most, is the camera angle. Because, as you know, the perspective and the design of most Royal Rumbles in most WWE games is it focuses on the ramp, so they can see people make their entrance and get in the ring and join the match, because that makes it more exciting. That adds drama, because you're like, oh, this guy's coming in, he's going to slide in. No, here, all you get to see is a number, their name, and then slide into the ring and start. Because all you get is the side view of the ring, which is just annoying. I mean, it's okay for regular matches because you get to see their entrance, but in the Royal Rumble, all you get to see is them slide in. I'm so glad I got to see everyone just slide in from the left. I mean, just sliding in ever so lovingly. It's stupid. Why would they? Who thought this was a good idea? And I haven't seen that much of 2K15 Royal Rumbles or 2K16 Royal Rumbles. Hopefully they fixed it there. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't, because gaming companies aren't exactly ones to make to say that they made a mistake and fix it. But still, the Royal Rumble in this game. Oh, plus you also add in that the controls are still terrible and the AI is still terrible, because all the AI cares about is trying to eliminate you from the match to get you close to the ropes so they can throw you out. Because for some reason in this game, the AI, whenever there's a certain way to win a match, that's all the AI can think about. It's not about having a match, not about doing moves that look cool. It's about winning the match. Win. I'm just like, just try. It's hard to have fun with you. It's just a chore. The Royal Rumble in this game is a chore, and no game should be a chore whatsoever. And speaking of multi-man matches in 2K14, they're all terrible too, with the exception of tag team matches, because that's a different story. But still, for the most part, multi-man matches in 2K14 are bad, and that kind of ties into how bad the AI is in the game. But I'm sure you're all aware that in real wrestling, whenever there's a multi-man match, like a triple threat or a fatal four-way or a six-man, there's always people outside the ring that are like hurt, selling, or resting, so people in the ring can wrestle and we can focus on them, and it keeps the action going. Like in a triple threat, the third guy's always on the outside, like hurt, so the two guys in the ring can wrestle, and you don't have to have all three guys in the ring the entire duration of the match. And that usually keeps things at a steady pace in real wrestling matches. Therein lies the problem with that. In 2K14, and in a lot of WWE video games, there's no downtime for anyone. You get hit with a move, takes a few seconds, then you get back up. And that is a problem, because there's only a certain limit that you can damage somebody before you can't damage that part of them anymore. And they'll always get back up at the same time, and there's no downtime in multi-man matches, because it's always a cluster, and especially in triple threat matches, the majority of the match will just be double team moves, over and over and over and over again. And it's really, really annoying. It's just like, throw something different at me. Quit doing double team moves. And whenever you grapple someone, the other guy will try to grapple with you, and you're like, no, I want to do a move myself. Go away. Go somewhere else. Leave me alone. And it's always in the game, and it's annoying. And with other multi-man matches like 4-ways and 6-mans, it's not as annoying because there's more people to work with, but it's still chaotic and annoying, and like there's no downtime, and it's hard to focus. And then whenever the number gets less and less, the more double team moves you'll get to see, and it's just annoying. So yeah, WWE 2K14 has a lot of problems that completely suck the fun out of the game for me, and just ruin it. Now, I know that a lot of people like the game, and if you do, that's fine, but in my opinion, it has way too many problems to thoroughly enjoy. But I will concede that there is a good game somewhere in here, but it's hidden, or should I say buried, beneath problem after problem after problem, glitch after glitch. It's like Swiss cheese. It would be good cheese, but there's too many holes in it. There's more holes than cheese, if you get what I'm saying. But what would you do if I told you that I haven't even covered this game's biggest problem yet? Because this game does have the one thing, like WWE 13, its biggest thing that set me off was its broken pinning mechanic. 2K14 has one thing that I cannot excuse, that is unforgivable, that just sends me into fits of rage. Remember when I was talking about the Creation Suite earlier, and how I'd be back to it to explain how it's not perfect. Good Lord Almighty, has never a truer statement ever been said. This game's creation suite is the most botched thing I've seen in video games in years. It is terrible. Although there's a lot of variety with it, there is so many issues with it. Issues with freezing, issues with glitches, issues with everything. Everything in the creation suite has a problem. Some of them are even game-breaking problems. And before you say anything, no, my disc is not scratched up. This is not just something that's just my problem with my copy of the game. No, look it up online. Google, 2K14 freezing. This is everywhere. It's just the worst. The first part of the creation suite that I'm going to be going over that has a multitude of problems is the game's story designer. This is the equivalent of what would happen if you put a light in a den of moths. You want to talk about just a swarm. The story designer has a swarm, an uncontrollable, foggy cloud of glitches that just destroy the story designer. I mean, first off, for ever since 2011, there has been no additions to the story designer. They all have the same things, which is a problem, because from 2010 to 2011, they added some things, but since 2011, they haven't added anything. Add more stuff, please. Thank you. And by that, I mean take it out of the game completely, because that was a good idea for 2K15 and 16, but my little tangent aside, the story designer in the creation suite is probably what freezes the most and has the most issues, but it only really happens when you have a custom character that you created, because when you use normal superstars that are already in the game, it usually works fine. But I'm beginning to think that 2K14 hates created characters, because whenever you add anything created into the mix in this game, just sit back and watch the fireworks, because good lord. But when you add a created character into the, when you ever try to put them in a cutscene, I guarantee you, I will bet you money, the first time you try it, the game will freeze. Because every single time you try to put a custom character in a cutscene, the game will freeze. Usually when you try to select that character, because you'll select the characters, and then you'll click accept, and then it'll freeze. And then you'll want to put your face through your TV because you're so angry, which I don't blame you. I had to restrain myself several times, but there is a way around this. But might I add that the fact that I have to give you a guide around 2K14's freezing story designer is absolutely ludicrous. But I digress. So there is a way to get around this. What you have to do is go to the story designer, select match, and put your custom character in a match, because whenever you use something in a custom story and then continue, do something else, whatever you have used prior will be highlighted with yellow. So whenever you have them in a match, immediately go to create a scene, and when you go to select character, go to whoever you want to use highlighted in yellow, because that will work. I have seen a few occasions where it didn't work, but for the most part, it does work, and it bypasses the glitch. Which, seriously, you have to come... it's astonishing that you have to... It's like a maze. The fact that there's a maze in this game that's so broken, if you want to use custom characters, is just bizarre and so hilariously inept that it's amazing. Another issue that is not as common as the freezing within the story designer, but sometimes when you use custom characters in a certain cutscene, I am not joking when I say this, your characters will become transparent. They'll turn into ghosts. Oh, Lord. I don't even... Are there words to describe this? I mean, it turns them into ghosts. This is, if I was coming up with jokes to say about this game, oh yeah, they even turn characters into ghosts. I'm not joking here. This is what happens. They released this game to the public. Just wow. Moving on with our never-ending, freezing, glitching creation suite of WWE 2K14 Tour is the creative title, which I talked about earlier, and I said that yes, it's a lot more of a creative title. It's an actual creative title, which is a lot better than the one WWE 13 gave us. However, again, this game hates created characters, because whenever you try to use a created title with a created character and put them in a title match, for some reason, after their entrance is over in that match, they will transform into their default attire. It's they will take off all their clothes, all their makeup, all their whatever, and you will be facing default. How? How does this happen? Test your game before you release it. They released this game in this state. Why? How did they not notice this? How did this fly under the radar? And also, speaking of problems with the created title, and again with the story designer, a lot of the times whenever you use a created title in a story cutscene, especially ones that have logos on them, for some reason the logos will disappear. The title will be blank and devoid of personality. All that hard work you put into it, it's gone. But when you pull that title back up, of course the design is still there. It's just gone for that certain scene, and I just don't understand. This game, it hurts, it hurts. Oh, this game is going to send me into therapy. You want to know what else freezes in this game? Whenever you try to use the created arena. 5 times out of 10, whenever you're creating an arena, like usually when you get halfway through, when you're working on like the mat and the ropes and the post part of the created arena, the game will freeze. I guess it just has a major processing issue whenever you try to do too much, but this is the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. Processing issues should not happen. It's not like we're trying to use a Commodore 64 here. Why does everything in this game that has the word created in it have so many issues? I don't understand it. And again, my disc is not scratched. If my disc was scratched, I would not be complaining. I would get a new copy, but it is not scratched. What the Wanna know what else freezes whenever you use a created character or created anything? Tables matches. Why? I cannot tell you how many times I have loaded up a tables match with created characters and the game freezes for no reason. Why? Just why? Stop freezing. I expect this game to pop out with a Arnold Schwarzenegger impression trying to tell stupid puns, and I'm gonna shoot it in the face with a double-barrel shotgun because this game drives me nuts. And then there's this. What even is that? Like, this is what happens whenever you download a created character and try to do a move in the corner. This happens. They try to merge. Literally, everything in this game that has the word created has some kind of infectious disease. What did they do to this disc? What happened to the quality of wrestling games? What is the answer to the meaning of life? Just, oh my god, oh, I need to go take some medicine because if I don't, I'm going to start burning things. The Creation Suite in 2K14 is a buggy, unusable disaster. And boy, is that a disappointment. Even WWE 13, a game that I absolutely hate and despise, even more than this game, its Creation Suite is fine for the most part. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. This, on the other hand, whoo, God, you want some bug spray? I know, terrible pun, but still, you get what I'm saying. It's like, just imagine like if you take this game and like just cut out the Creation Suite and just play the game by itself. Don't create anything, just use what the game already has. It has a lot of problems still, but it's still playable. There's enjoyment to be had. But man, when you add the Creation Suite into the mix, it goes from enjoyable but broken to enjoyable because it's so broken. The Creation Suite in this game, it's a masterpiece of the worst kind. Like, Sonic 06 is a glitch-ridden masterpiece of gaming design that just, you cannot believe that this thing actually was put on shelves for you to buy. That's what this game's Creation Suite is. And that is really why, that is the main reason why I hate this game, because the Creation Suite is so awful. Plus all the other problems that I talked about. But yeah, the game does have a lot of high points, but man, it is outnumbered and trampled upon by everything wrong with the game. So that pretty much completes my entire review of it. I've gone over every detail that I could think of. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. The Universe Mode. How's the Universe Mode? I don't know, because that's the one part of the game I have no idea about, because I'll be honest, I have never played the Universe Mode in any WWE video game ever. Except for 2011, and I hated it. It's just not my thing. I just stick to exhibition stuff and the story mode. I just don't really care about the Universe Mode. It's just not my thing. I mean, if you like the Universe Mode, if it makes the game for you, good for you. It just doesn't appeal to me. But as far as what I've talked about, yeah, the good is outweighed by the bad by a significant margin. And that is why I have concluded what I will rank this game. My first ever video game ranking for any video game ever. I will say that WWE 2K14 gets the 06 rating. This game is a bad game. It's not good. There are some good things in it that keep it from being where I would say it should be burnt at the stake, but it's still hilariously awful. I mean, the point of giving a game an 06 rating is saying that it's so bad, it's hilarious. The thing, if you were not laughing when I was showing you everything wrong with the story designer, then you are a tough customer to please, because that is some hilarious stuff, okay? But yeah, I give this game an 06 because a lot of the things in this game do drive me crazy, but they make me laugh a lot too, because this game is playable if you're playing it with friends, and if you don't use the creation suite. It is fun, but it's still bad. So yeah, that's my review of WWE 2K14 and my first ever video game review, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you next time, and I think my next video game review will be either Star Wars The Force Unleashed or Sonic Generations, so I'll be looking forward to that. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time, hopefully with a better game. 'Cause good lord.